So I have a great video for you today. We're going to be talking about who or what is the restrainer that we read about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We're going to talk about the man of lawlessness, and we're going to talk about the mystery of lawlessness, which is something that I hardly ever hear anybody talk about. So we're going to be talking about all of those things in this video today, and chances are you haven't heard anything like this before. So stick around. We're going to have a great time. A lot of people have asked me to do a video on who or what is the restrainer in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. So I've kind of been putting it off because I really didn't have what I thought of as a kind of a comprehensive understanding of the whole enchilada, as it were, and how 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 fits into the book of Revelation in a big way. And as far as I'm concerned, and I think this is the way God intended it, any passage that's talking about the end times, especially that has application for believers, we should be able to find something about it in the book of Revelation. Revelation is the comprehensive end time scenario that God has given us. The other day I was listening to somebody talking about the mystery of lawlessness, and that is sort of what got me going on this whole study today that I'm going to be sharing with you. The mystery of lawlessness. In the scriptures, we see the word mystery a number of times. We have the harlot, who is mystery Babylon. We have the mystery of God as revealed to his servants, the prophets. We have the mystery of lawlessness. We have the mystery of godliness. We have a whole bunch of mysteries in the Bible. A mystery is not really a mystery. What it is it's divine revelation. So anytime you see this word mystery, especially in the New Testament, what we're looking at is a piece of information that, apart from God's revelation, we wouldn't know anything about this. Okay, so a mystery is actually something that we do know, but it's not something that everybody knows, and it's not something that you would know naturally. It's something that has to be explained to you, and many of the mysteries have fulfillment, particularly in the end times. I'm not going to talk about all the mysteries today. We're going to sort of focus on the mystery of lawlessness, the man of lawlessness, and who or what is the restrainer. So let's just take a look at the passage. It's in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 1 through 12, kind of long, and then we're just going to pick this apart. We're going to look at what some of these words mean, what they mean in the context of what we're reading here, and how this fits into the larger end time story that's been given to us in the book of Revelation. Now, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered to him, we ask you, brothers, not to be quickly shaken in mind or alarmed, either by spirit or spoken word or letter, seeming to be from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. Do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? And you know what is restraining him now, so that he may be revealed in his time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he is out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will kill with the breath of his mouth and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore God sends them a strong delusion, so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Okay, so that's the passage. We're going to be looking at specific parts of this passage in more kind of focused detail. We won't be looking at the whole thing. I'm not going to do an hour-long video, I hope, on this, but we'll take however much time it takes to be able to cover this. So the mystery of lawlessness, that's the first thing I want to look at, because I think this is the key to the whole passage here, the mystery of lawlessness. A biblical mystery, like I said before, is not something that's secret, something we don't know, but it's something that we do know because God has revealed it to us. It would be hidden, it would be secret, it would be unknown if God hadn't said something about it. So when you see the word mystery, don't think of something that's secret or unknown or something that's unknowable, that you can't know anything about it at all. Think about something that God is telling you that's sort of been hush-hush up until this present time, but he wants you to know something about what's going on. So here, what we have is the revelation of lawlessness. Okay, the mystery of lawlessness is a revelation of lawlessness. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, first let's look at the word lawlessness. It just means without law, not having any regard for God's law, not caring if you offend God or not follow his laws, have utter disregard for what he's written in the word and for his intentions for humanity and for his kingdom and realm and everything. So the Bible tells us that sin is lawlessness. Okay, so that's something we know. 1 John 3:4 says, everyone who makes a practice of sinning, that is habitual sinning, also practices lawlessness. Sin is lawlessness. But is sin a mystery about which the average person is unaware unless God directly intervenes and tells you something about it? Paul tells us in the book of Romans that sin isn't a mystery. Everybody is aware of God's righteous decrees and what God's righteousness is. So Romans 1:28 through 31 says this, furthermore, since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, he gave them up to a depraved mind to do what ought not to be done. And they have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They're gossips, they're slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent new forms of evil. They disobey their parents. They are senseless, faithless, heartless, merciless. And here's the key passage. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things are worthy of death, they not only continue to do these things, but they also approve of those who practice them. These are just people in the world. Regular people know the difference between good and evil, between good and bad, between what God has basically put in our hearts as, what is the standard of goodness. And they say, no, we don't want that. We're going to do what we want to do. So sin, I don't think sin is the mystery of lawlessness. There's something else that's going on here. We know that the mystery of lawlessness is somehow connected to the man of lawlessness. Now, the man of lawlessness is none other person than the Antichrist. Okay, that's who we think of when we are talking about the man of lawlessness. He's the same thing as the beast from Revelation, the beast from the sea. This is the man who's going to die. He's going to rise from the dead, as Christ, who has the keys to death and Hades, will allow him to do. And then he's going to be indwelt by the angel from the bottomless pit, Apollyon, so that he becomes the beast who ascends from the bottomless pit. Satan isn't in the bottomless pit. Satan is in heaven. Apollyon is in the bottomless pit, and he is the king of the angels of the bottomless pit. And so when he ascends from the bottomless pit, he will indwell the man, because remember, the Antichrist is a man. He has the number of a man, and you have to be a man to rule the world. But he's going to be a man who dies and then is indwelt by the spirit of Apollyon, this angel from the bottomless pit. The Antichrist is going to be a hybrid. He's going to have the body of a man. He'll be the seed of the serpent, though, in his heart. He's going to have that fallen angel spirit placed inside of him, and he is going to be basically Satan's spawn, who is going to rule the world for 42 months. The Antichrist is going to be given power from Satan. He's going to be indwelt by Apollyon, but the power is going to come from the dragon, who's going to give the beast his power, his throne, and his great authority. And people on earth, the earth dwellers, are going to worship the beast because he died, he came back, and he seems to have the power over death, just like Christ does. So who is Apollyon? And who are those angels that are in the bottomless pit? Well, these are the beings that we know of as the Watchers, or the sons of God from Genesis 6, who were imprisoned in the pit at the time of the flood. So when the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, they came down, they left their first estate, they decided to have relations with women, to have offspring, who then became the giants of old, who were also known as the Nephilim, the fallen ones. The Nephilim were hybrids. They were part angel, part human. As more and more of these Nephilim were being born and coming on earth, they exchanged forbidden knowledge in exchange for wives. And according to the book of Enoch, they taught mankind how to do war, how to make instruments of war, how to teach women how to seduce men so that they can have more of these illegitimate babies, and that the Nephilim would go on and eventually take over the earth so that there wouldn't be any true humans around to be able to give birth to the seed of the woman, who is Christ. So God saw that this was happening. He came down. He saw the violence. He saw how awful things were, the condition of the world. He saved Noah, who was pure in his generation. That is, his natural DNA was untainted by the fallen angels. And the flood came. The Watchers were put into the pit, and the Nephilim who died, their spirits became the demons who wander the earth. So if they had been humans, their spirits would have gone to Sheol, the place of the dead, but they weren't fully human, so their spirits didn't go there. And if they had been fully angelic, they would have probably been put in the pit, but they weren't. They're these creatures that their spirits roam the earth looking for a body to inhabit. Dr. Michael Heiser, he just recently passed away, but I have a great respect for him. He was a scholar, and he did a lot of research on what we would call the unseen realm. That is the world of angels and demons and heavenly things. And he described in one of his videos how the Jews of Jesus' day would regard the origins of evil. Like, where does evil come from? How did it get here? Why are things so bad? And what he said is that the Jews would understand, of course, that the human race fell, when Adam sinned. And that's one problem. But the second problem is that when the sons of God came and had relations with the daughters of men, they increased sin's wickedness. They increased and multiplied the issues, the evil that would be on the earth because of this forbidden knowledge that was imparted to mankind. So the Jews also recognized the influence of demons on people and civilizations and so on. And these evil spirits even now infest our present world, inciting people to commit greater and greater acts of evil and wickedness. So the mystery, that is something that we've been told that isn't general knowledge out there, the mystery of lawlessness has to do with the whole Genesis 6 thing. That is the influence of fallen angels on humanity since the time before the flood. If God hadn't told us about this incursion of fallen angels and their subsequent return during the last days, we would be totally ignorant of their role in the corruption of humanity in the past and the fact that they're coming in the future, and that their offspring, the demons, are still roaming the earth and satanically energizing and empowering the present world system. 2 Thessalonians 2:7. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Okay, so this is something that is already in play. Okay, and I think that this is a reference especially to the demonic influence that's in the world today. And then it says, only he who now restrains it will do so until he's out of the way. So who is the he here, and how is he restraining this mystery of lawlessness? Notice it's saying that what is being restrained is this thing that we wouldn't naturally know about unless it had been revealed to us, about this connection with the fallen angels. Because remember, the Antichrist, the beast, is going to be the seed of the serpent. He's going to be part human, part fallen angel. Okay, Apollyon is going to indwell him. So we know that this present world system is under the control of Satan through demonically influenced corrupt men and women, and is a part of the lawlessness that's already at work. So the demonic aspect of lawlessness is currently a part of our lives through evil people in power who are usually hidden behind the scenes. The harlot that we read about in the book of Revelation talks about her being in the wilderness. The wilderness is a place where there are demons. The wilderness is where the demons wander. Okay, so this is a clue that this entity, this mystery entity that we now know about, has been infested by demons and is energized by demonic forces. The other thing we know is that once Mystery Babylon, the harlot, is destroyed, that the demons are released into the world. Those places become a haunt of every foul spirit, according to Revelation 18. 2 Peter 2, verses 4 and 5. For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell, and here that's Tartarus, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. Okay, and then Jude 6 says this, and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. The great day is the day of the Lord. It's the day when the wrath of God is going to be poured out on the beast and the beast kingdom. It comes like a thief in the night. It's going to come on these fallen entities. So the fallen angels, the watchers, the demons, they're all going to be judged when Jesus returns during the day of the Lord, okay, which is the bowl judgments, which will be signaled by the events of the sixth seal, with the sun going dark, the moon turning to blood, and so on. All the fallen ones, with the exception of Satan, are going to be judged when Christ begins his millennial reign. So that none of these wicked entities, none of the watchers, none of the demons, none of the people who take the mark of the beast, none of those who are going to be made in the image of the beast, are going to be on earth in spirit or body to be able to mess with Christ's millennial kingdom. He is not going to allow that. They're all going to be judged, put in the lake of fire at his return. However, before they are judged, fallen angels, the sons of God, the watchers, who are now in the pit, are going to be released from the pit at the fifth trumpet. Revelation 9, 1 through 11. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit, and he opened it. And then out from that opening comes these entities that are described as a locust army. This is all symbolism, okay? Everything that's described in chapter 9 is symbolic, and I've gone over this in my Revelation chapter by chapter series. Just go to Revelation chapter 9, and I talk about all the symbols here. Let's go down to verse 10. They have tails and stings like scorpions, and their power to hurt people for 5 months is in their tails. They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he's called Apollyon. So once the restraint of the pit has been removed and the pit is opened, they are no longer restrained in the pit. Okay, so that's a really important thing to know, that There's a restrainer that's an it, and there's a restrainer that's a he. The it is the pit. Okay, they are being restrained in the pit until the time of the end. And that's when the man of lawlessness, who is the hybridized Antichrist, who will be the seventh king, who dies and comes back as the eighth king, now being indwelt by Apollyon, he'll be permitted to rule for 42 months with Satan's power and all kinds of lying signs and wonders. Okay, so let's go back to the text in 2 Thessalonians 2. Let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come. Talking about the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord, which is that 1,000-year reign of Christ. The day of the Lord and the millennial reign are the same thing. The day of the Lord will start with wrath when the beast and the fallen ones are judged, and it will end with the destruction of the heavens and the earth with fire and the creation of a new heavens and a new earth. So the day of the Lord does not begin a 7-year period. Okay, the day of the Lord is 1,000 years, and it won't start until the signs associated with the sixth seal in Revelation. Okay, let's just keep moving through here. That day, that is the day of the Lord, isn't going to come unless the rebellion comes first. The apostasy comes first. So what is that? It's a word that's not used that often in the New Testament, but what it means is that you've left from where you used to be. So you used to be a Christian who followed Jesus, and you decided you weren't going to do that anymore. That doesn't mean you've lost your salvation. It just means that you left. Okay, and when you leave it, you run the danger, and the outcome will be that you lose your inheritance. Okay, you don't lose salvation. That's different. You're saved no matter what, but you will lose your inheritance, which is part of the reason we've been saved, is so that we can be joint heirs with Christ. These people will lose that. This rebellion of real believers, we're not talking about fake Christians here. We're talking about people who actually were born again of the Spirit of God, became children of God. The Bible talks about this, 1 Timothy 4, 1 and 2. It says, the Spirit expressly says that in later times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and the teaching of demons, through the insincerity of liars whose consciences are seared. This is going to happen. This does not mean these people are not saved from the wrath of God, which is the lake of fire. Okay, remember, the wrath of God is not the tribulation. The wrath of God is the lake of fire. They'll be saved from the lake of fire, but they will lose their inheritance. That's something we've talked about in other videos. They're going to give credence to the doctrines of demons. This is something that the Spirit expressly says will happen. Some will depart from the faith. And I know this is hard to believe that people would do that Christians who, are born again and have the Holy Spirit living inside of them would do that, but they will. Before Christ returns to rule, some will depart from the faith in what I think is a unique and distinctive apostasy or rebellion. It's going to be unlike previous ways that people or Christians have apostatized. And I don't know exactly why I think that, but I think because the Spirit expressly says that in later times people are going to give heed to deceitful spirits and the teaching of demons, which I think is going to be a particular teaching that's going to come around during the end times. We know that before Christ returns to rule, some will depart from the faith, and before Christ returns to set up his kingdom, the man of lawlessness also has to be revealed. For that day, that is the day of the Lord, the coming of Christ, his parousia, his appearing, will not come until the rebellion comes first, okay, the apostasy, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction or the son of perdition. That's a title or a name that is only given to the Antichrist and to Judas, okay? And this man of lawlessness opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, the crux of the matter. The man of lawlessness will appear in the temple of God, taking his seat in that place, perhaps even sitting on the ark, which is a throne, and then proclaiming that he's God. This is the event referred to in both the Gospels and in the book of Daniel as the abomination of desolation. Matthew 24:15 and 16. So when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, that is, he's on his way in to take his seat, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay, this is talking about the remnant of Israel. The people who are in Israel at that time, when they see this event take place, they are supposed to run. Okay. So we know that the day of the Lord will not come until, one, there's been a prophesied fulfillment of Christians leaving the faith to pursue the doctrines of demons, and secondly, the revealing of the man of sin when he goes into the temple. So the day of the Lord cannot come until both of those things take place. This is one of the reasons why we know that the day of the Lord is not the beginning of a 7-year tribulation. It has to start after the abomination of desolation. The revelation of the man of sin is not when the Antichrist signs a peace covenant. Okay, it's when he goes into the temple and declares that he's God. Paul is very clear about that. Next, Paul is going to take a step back, and he's going to come at this revelation of the man of sin or the man of lawlessness from a little bit different vantage point. Verse 5, do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? And you know what is restraining him now, so that he may be revealed in his time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he is out of the way. The pit or the abyss is currently the thing that is restraining the watchers, and thus the unfolding of the mystery of lawlessness, including the revelation of the man of lawlessness. So the word restrain actually comes from two Greek words, kata and echo, which just means to retain or seize or lay hold of, or to take hold of, or to hold back or hold fast. In other words, to prevent something from happening. So Paul explains again that the man of sin taking his seat in the temple of God cannot happen until something else happens, namely the release of the watchers from the pit. Now, he's not saying that in so many words, but if the mystery of lawlessness is this mystery of this hybrid fallen angel human, that can't happen until the pit is opened and the watchers are released and then permitted to actually enter into people, including that seventh king, who's the beast from the sea, who dies and then rises from the dead. So the full manifestation of the man of sin will be on the same day as the abomination, but that will not happen until Christ leaves. So here's the verse. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he's out of the way. Okay, so out of the way. What does that mean? Well, it's Strong's number 1096, ginomai. I'm not sure exactly how to say it, but it means to emerge, to become, especially to transition from one point, realm, or condition to another. It signifies a change of condition, state, or place. In other words, the one who is restraining this, who is Christ, okay, or God, he's going to keep doing this until he's left that place. Okay, now this is where things start to get a little weird. How is it that Christ is going to leave that place? How did he get there? What place are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the place where the man of sin is going to take his seat in the temple of God. Christ is going to leave that place. He's going to go out of the way. He's going to transition from that place to another place, to have a change of venue. All right, so in Vincent, who is a Greek scholar, he says this word, ginomai, is used to show God's actions as emerging from eternity and showing themselves in physical space. So Christ is going to return at the time, on the same day that the abomination of desolation takes place. This is when he's going to step down on the Mount of Olives. The mountain is going to split. And that's when the Jews are going to flee through the opening, and Christ is going to lead them. He's going to go from the heavenly realm, touch down on the Mount of Olives, emerge from eternity, show up in physical space, and he is going to leave that temple, leave Jerusalem, and bring the remnant of Israel with him. So we know that Christ is going to personally guide the remnant into the wilderness. He's going to step down on the Mount of Olives, and we know from Revelation 11 that's the same time that the two witnesses go up into heaven after being resurrected. That same hour, there's a great earthquake. The mountain splits. From other places, we know that when the Jews see the abomination, the man of sin, go into the temple, he hasn't sat down yet. He's just in the temple. He's standing in that place, and we're talking about the tabernacle of David here. It's not a temple with a inner holy of holies and the holy place and so on. It's a tent with the ark. They'll see him stand there. They need to flee into the wilderness, and Christ is going to lead them. Christ and the remnant will be in the process of fleeing when the Antichrist is revealed, when he takes his seat in the temple of God. So then Paul makes one more leap in time, one more jump in time, and he goes from the abomination to when Christ will kill the lawless one. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will kill with the breath of his mouth. Okay, so the popular teaching on this in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 is that this is a rapture passage, number one, describing believers being taken into heaven at the coming of the Lord and are gathering to him. Okay, first off, the coming of the Lord is not referring to Christ coming for us. Okay, that word there, coming, parousia, is his appearance, most often used in terms of his visible appearance to rule and reign. It's also talking about the Antichrist at his coming, at his visible appearance to rule and reign, his parousia. And it's also used in Matthew 24 when it talks about the coming of Christ to take Israel, the remnant of Israel, into the wilderness. And that's when his coming is going to be like lightning that shines from the east to the west. Okay, so it's not a rapture passage. The gathering together refers to that same gathering that Jesus mentioned in Matthew 24. And this is after the tribulation of those days, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and he'll come in power and great glory, and the angels will gather. It's that same Greek word in a different, it's the verb tense. Will gather the elect from one end of heaven to another. So all the elect who are in heaven, who are going to be ruling and reigning with Christ, will be gathered to him at his second coming. They've already been raptured. This is when they're going to be accompanying Christ or showing up when he appears to the world. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Paul was basically explaining to these people that they couldn't be in the day of the Lord, the time when Christ was going to rule, because the Antichrist hadn't been revealed yet. There hadn't been this great apostasy yet, this great falling away that's going to take place during the end times. That the mystery of lawlessness was actually still being held back, and one of the ways you could know that was because these beings weren't present on the earth. It's going to be like the days of Noah once these guys are released from the pit. And I highly recommend that you watch my series on the days of Noah. It's like totally mind-blowing. And what it tells me is that basically almost all teachers on eschatology have lost the plot, including myself up until just recently. We'd lost the plot of what this judgment is all about. The very first judgment is the judgment of the watchers, the demons, fallen angels, all the bad entities who are going to be cast into the lake of fire along with anyone who follows them. That's the primary judgment when Christ returns to begin his millennial reign. He is not going to have any of these bad guys infiltrating his kingdom. Okay, and remember, he has to put down every rule and authority before he can hand the kingdom to his Father to rule and reign in eternity. So Paul was explaining the order of events that would have to precede the day of the Lord, the millennial reign, which is that 1,000-year day, which would come like a thief in the night, according to Peter, bringing in God's wrath and judgment. So first there has to be a defection of believers. Next, there has to be the mystery of lawlessness must be fully manifested. It's going to be unrestrained. That is, the fallen ones who came here and made sin worse than it would have been, the fallen angels and so on, they're going to be manifested during these last days. They're going to be released from the pit. All the fallen angels are going to be cast out of heaven. All the demons will already be here. 4 really wicked angels that are bound at the river Euphrates are going to be released as well. It's going to be hell on earth. Not a time when you want to actually be a person living during the reign of the beast. The 7th king, who is a man, remember you have to be a man in order to rule the earth. He's going to die, he'll rise from the dead, and then after becoming one with Apollyon, then he'll become the Antichrist, the man of sin, and Satan will give him all his power, throne, and authority. And then all of Apollon's fellow fallen watcher type angels are going to follow his example, and they also will take on human bodies. That is, people will die. They'll be given breath, they'll come alive, and they'll have a spirit imparted to them, one of these fallen angels, so that they will be in the image of the beast. People will be required to worship these beings. The abomination of desolation, the day when all the watchers will be able to begin to indwell resurrected human bodies, will take place exactly 5 months after the date commemorates the beginning of the flood of Noah's day, when the watchers were imprisoned and their children died in the flood over this 5-month, 150-day period. So see Genesis 7, verses 11 and 24 for that. And also the first video in my Days of Noah series. And the 5 months will end on the day of the abomination. After the full manifestation of lawlessness, Christ has to leave the vicinity. He's going to go out of the midst, okay, of the place where he's been. And I know most people don't think that Christ will actually be on earth during any of the end times. They think people are going to be raptured, meet him in the air, and then he's not going to actually touch down on the earth until, the end of a 7-year tribulation. But that is not actually biblical. Christ is going to make multiple appearances during the end times. I have videos where I talk about this. So after the full manifestation of lawlessness, Christ must leave Jerusalem. He's going to have his people come with him, the remnant of Israel. Come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her plagues. And as soon as he is gone, the man of sin will take his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming that he is God. I also did a video called The Abandoned Temple, and I think it's also a very good video to watch in conjunction with this video today. So, of course, in order for Christ to leave, we must assume that he already came to earth in some way, and that's what the Zechariah 14 passage is all about. Zechariah 14, 4 and 5. On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two, from east to west, forming a great valley, with half the mountain moving to the north and half to the south. And you will flee by my mountain valley, for it will extend to Azal. And you will flee as you fled from the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And then the Lord my God, most Bibles will say, come, the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. It actually should say, the Lord my God, Christ, will go, and all the holy ones, that is, the chosen remnant of Israel, will go with him. So that word, Greek word bow, Strong's number 935, has many meanings. The primary meaning is either to go or to come, and how the translators translated that depended on what they thought about what was happening in this passage. So the mystery of lawlessness has nothing to do with the current evil that is present in the world. There's no mystery to the things we see around us apart from the idea that they're demonically controlled or influenced. They've been taking place for generations, but the mystery, the revelation that God has given us is that the evil which has been contained by the imprisonment of the watchers will soon cease. It will cease to be contained. It will stop being restrained once the pit is opened. And things will get worse once the man of sin is revealed. The revelation of the man of sin does not happen, as many teach, when the Antichrist signs a peace covenant. He's going to be revealed when he goes into the temple of God after Christ has gone out of the midst, either out of the temple or out of the city of Jerusalem or out of both. Once Christ leaves with the remnant of Israel, the beast, the Antichrist, will go into the temple and begin his 42-month reign after he takes his seat in the temple of God. And at the end of 42 months, Christ will return as the warrior king. He'll slay the beast, gather us together with him, and begin the kingdom age, which will last 1,000 years. All the fallen ones, the watchers, the beast, the fallen angels, the false prophet, the demons, those who are made in the image of the beast, plus any people who take the mark of the beast or worship the beast, will be judged and cast into the lake of fire. Only Satan will be left to deceive the nations once the millennium is over. But he will spend the 1,000 years chained in the pit and not be released until the 1,000 years are over. Christ must put down every opposing rule and authority before he will hand the kingdom to his Father at the end of the 1,000 years. The first beings to be judged will be the fallen sons of God who sinned with human women prior to the flood, as well as their offspring and anyone who joins them. All right, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. We'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.